The Frame Center Podcast.
Okay, so welcome to the Frame Center Podcast. And today, me and Scott are fortunate enough to have Kelly Broderick and Kelly Russo, who just so happen to be showing their artwork alongside of this podcast next door in the gallery space here at the Frame Center. So I'm really excited to talk to them. I got a lot of questions. I've already warned them. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation. So here we go. Welcome, Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. This is going to the only confusion we're going to have is like trying to...
For all the listeners at home, this will be fun.
Yeah. I'll just
Kelly.
give you a little push.
Kelly 1 and Kelly 2, yeah.
Whoever wants to answer can just answer.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
You
these
can
will
just
just be very general questions that both of you could answer. So I'm excited. I think the show next door looks awesome. Tina did a great job again. She's been doing fantastic putting all that stuff together.
Already getting tons of compliments from customers coming in to see it. So, even before you guys... Opening reception night, which is on
Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday,
April 13th.
Nice.
From
5 to 7.
There we go. Just so for the listeners at home, we're going to have this out before that. So
Yeah, already a couple dots over there too, right?
Some nice hot pink dots.
Yeah.
I like the hot pink touch.
Yeah.
Yes, I like to see those.
All Dina's doing. The gallery is her baby, so she's done fantastic with it. I think we have a couple sheets of different colored dots over there. So.
Great.
Good.
Yeah.
It was super easy to work with her.
I know we've already got a lot of people that want to come back. They've been taking the cards from the front door like
Great.
crazy. So they all want to come back and meet you guys because they all want to talk about like what each piece means to you and things like that. Because with abstract stuff, everything means a little different to everybody. So,
Right.
It's good to hear.
You guys both went to Mass Art or the classes in Mass Art or?
I went right after high school. I went to Mass Art for painting, and I got my bachelor's in fine arts. And then being like 20-something and waitressing and working at a restaurant to make money, and I'm like, this is it. It's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
There wasn't like social media either. I feel like that has like been a game changer for artists too. So I did some graphic design stuff, and I just didn't love that.
It's tough. It's very restricting too.
It's like too much computer, and that was not where I wanted to be. So I took a trip to Cuba with Mass Art after I graduated, and we ended up working with kids there.
Oh,
and
cool.
That was like my turning point. So I came back to Mass Art. Yeah, got my teaching certification, and started teaching actually right here in Hanover at the middle school. So my students used to have art shows in the gallery, which it's like totally full circle. Yes.
That was the name of the show too, right? It was,
Right.
Yeah, that was... do you miss the teaching? I
do miss the teaching, yeah. The kids are super fun. It was 5th to 8th grade, too, so you got, like, all kinds of ranges
I was going to say, the
personalities and abilities and things like
the
that.
creativity is in full flow at that point without anything to block them on it. So,
Exactly.
that's awesome.
Exactly. So as I was teaching, when I went back to Mass Art, I got my master's, and I was able to paint a lot then, too. Yeah. And then my family started to grow. I taught for like 8 years, and then we had our first child, and then second, and then third and fourth. So basically was raising my kids for a while, and would
Four
draw.
kids at home. Yeah, you have like full-time students.
I have like my own art class. But then, obviously I didn't have too much time to paint, so I would take a class just to like force me to like get out. Mm-hmm. So we're lucky enough to have like the South Shore Art Center and the North River Arts Association and amazing artists and teachers around. So
we've said that several times in the show. We are pretty well saturated in this area for art groups and a bunch of different teachers and everything. So there's always something available for somebody to take and try, which is nice.
Absolutely.
Right. And how about you, Kelly? You do any teaching too, or have any teaching background?
No, not at all. I do like children, but no, I have not ever taught. My connection to Mass Art was more when I was in high school. I would spend my Saturdays at both Mass Art and the museum school when other kids were maybe doing like soccer practice or cheerleading practice. I spent the day doing the Mass Art Saturday studio classes and the museum school Saturday studio classes. And then I got my BFA from Syracuse University in design, actually in surface pattern design, which really I made that choice based on getting a job afterwards that paid and had benefits and things like I know. I was very responsible.
Well
and then I spent about 20 years as a footwear designer working in the sport and fashion space.
What shoe company?
A lot of them. I mean, the Boston area is rich with shoe companies. So I worked in-house at a few and then did consulting for a few others around. So
you
that
actually drew the shoes?
Yeah, and picked the colors and materials. I mean, a lot of it translates. The only problem I would say with it was that I spent a lot of my creative energy doing that. During that time, I rarely painted. I would say I took 20 years off from painting. Yeah. I would take like a ceramics class or something here and there, but I spent a lot of time in Adobe Illustrator and drawing shoes and working that. It was great. I was able to travel and I don't have any regrets about it, but it felt really nice and like coming home the first time I stepped back into North River Art Society to just take any painting class for my mental health. I was like, this feels good.
Yeah, well, when you're doing something that you have to do to certain restrictions and things like that, I'm sure that cuts back on, like, it has to follow this design. There's only these many colors allowed. And then when you want to go home, the last thing you want to do is play with more colors and do a thing. I did that all day. I want to do something different. Yeah. So being able to have something else and do art again as a hobby, I'm sure was much
really
more fun.
Now, are you both from the South Shore originally? Or you said you come home to North River, so
I grew up in Weymouth.
And I grew up in Quincy.
Nice.
So social
and
girls.
now we're both in Scituate.
Okay. Nice. Now, and then the connection, I had heard a rumor that you guys were both in Kelly McDonald's class. Is that
correct?
Is that where you guys kind of connected?
Big shout out to Kelly McDonald. She brought us together.
Another Kelly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So,
just to make it very clear.
We were sitting in front and back of each other with masks on. And
that's true.
I think we both admired each other's work online, but had never met. And then I was like, oh, you're Kelly Russo.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Jody Regan had mentioned that she had a connection where she was seeing all your work and added the confusion of Kelly McDonald into the mix.
Throw it in there.
But I think the work complements each other really well. I mean, especially the way you guys, everything was framed with like the black and white floaters, and nice to know that
allowing the colors to kind of speak for the pieces themselves, but also like you've got one that's really fully concentrated in the space and one that's much more open. So you got also opposites at the same time, which I think is really nice as well.
Right.
Yeah, I think Dina did a great job of taking a lot of abstract art and helping to make it make sense together. you know?
Yeah, she created like a beautiful color story.
Yeah, no,
she
absolutely.
Really did.
Do you guys take classes over with Kelly on a regular basis? Here and there. I know that a lot of people like to take those classes just to kind of keep motivated and to like hear other people's voices.
I did the abstract class. That's how we met. And I think I've always been an abstract painter, but I feel like there's not that many abstract classes out there.
No.
Especially around here, I think. Maybe it's becoming
like
a little more popular.
Lately.
Maybe a little more popular lately. But so I just kind of wanted to see, like, even when I was doing painting classes at Mass Art, like, we start with all the basic stuff, like still life and portrait and landscape. And I don't even remember taking like an abstract class at Mass Art. You just kind of followed your own way and were supported with whatever you wanted to do. And like, obviously the professors would encourage you to like check out different artists and things like that.
Try different styles. But that was like the abstract class. But I do love to I have taken Kelly's plein air class too, and with oil paints. I just feel like I do paint abstractly, but I do also I've taken portrait classes in oil, and I like to go out and paint like realistically. Not that I feel like it's my style, but I feel like it kind of like sharpens your tools a little bit.
It does sharpen your tools.
Yeah.
Like I have one of her paintings, and I've seen her stuff but it's done like loose, not like an abstract at like the level of like,
Kelly can paint anything.
Yeah.
Is what I would say about Kelly. Yeah. She can paint a Dunkin' Donuts cup and a donut with beauty and integrity, and it's stunning. And she also does a lot of abstract work as well. So she really...
I feel like the abstract stuff is kind of newer for her too.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you have something like, I know she sells a lot of donuts, right? I mean, if you have something that's working and you're supporting yourself as an artist, like sometimes the other stuff that you do that's like more of a passion might get
I think she's leaning more abstract, but she floats back and forth between abstraction and realism. And I will take like a workshop or a class whenever I can. Much like Kelly said, I think painting in community and with others is always good for you. And taking classes that push you in any direction is always good for any artist. I don't think staying in one, even though abstract is where I really feel comfortable and confident and it makes me the happiest. Like there is something great about painting a lemon once in a while or a landscape. Or,
Yeah, I mean, just want to have all those tools in the toolbox, right? Like
exactly.
just,
Yeah.
Abstract's a great way of getting a mood out onto a piece of your current mood and feelings out onto a without having to
100%.
take a general form of shape of something,
Yeah, I almost don't understand how people can't do it. Like, it's just such a release and like
so many people think that art has to follow an exact set of rules and it must be this, like stay within the lines. You've been told all your life you must stay inside the lines, can only paint. And to go outside those lines is sometimes difficult for people.
It's so freeing, and
but that's the thing. It is. It's much more like open. Like I do the liquid acrylic pours.
Oh yeah,
pours. And sometimes it's just about a color palette you happen to be feeling that day, or just a certain mood. Sometimes mine are dark and kind of depressing. Sometimes mine are bright and vivid and lovely. It all just depends on what I'm feeling. And I feel I can get one of those out much faster than I could if I'm working on one of my watercolors. That might take me 4 to 5 weeks to paint. Depending on, and you gotta wait for things to dry and go back. With this, you can kind of blend, mix, go, let things dry. If it cracks, it's great. Oh, that adds to it. It doesn't really matter. It's all just depends.
There can be a lot of play with it.
That's the thing. Yeah. So
I find the first part of it the most freeing and the most fun is when you're just getting the beginning out on the paper or the canvas. But I think sort of as you go back and forth with the layers and you're trying to hone in your color palette and your composition, it can take time. Sometimes I stare at a painting for weeks.
I love
carry it around my house.
I love building a color theme for a piece and figuring out where I want to go with it. And then it's even better when it comes out the way I had in my mind. It's a little more frustrating when the wrong colors come out on top. But, you learn from it every single time you do one. So
I think Damien Hirst actually just started to do pour paintings too, which is like the artist Damien Hirst was like,
they're fun. They become very popular lately because it is something that
zillions of dollars.
They always say that everybody can do, which is how I found it. I found it online watching a random YouTube video.
Right.
Up until that point, I was doing acrylic painting or, for landscapes or watercolor. And then I found those and I was like, oh, let me try them out. And I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome, And then there's like 500 different techniques. There's no single way you can make one, and you can blend different pieces together. I've done them with like acrylic paints and house paints, add splash of nail polish, it doesn't really matter because it all is going to end up making it the unique factor in there. So it's pretty fun.
Give it a shot. I feel like with the abstract stuff too, like some of the painting I used to do, which I haven't done in ages, it's just like for me, like my process was kind of like just like getting as much paint and colors that I like onto, and then like letting something kind of come forward. And I felt like the stuff that I like always had like the same type of feel to it, like what I would see. I'd always like try to find like a figure or something like that in the process. I also used to drink a lot when I would paint. So it was like
very Jackson Pollock of you.
But it was also like a I don't know, just like a kind of like a relaxing thing for me. It was just like I'm gonna go downstairs, be left alone, and start to just trying to create something. Since I gave up drinking, it's not as much. I had to give up painting too.
Come on, come back over.
But no, I mean, I still mess with things from time to time, and then hopefully once the store is up and running, and all of my social media duties are done, I'll return to it at some point. We're in like such a great community for that sort of thing. I think that it seems like it'd be something easily to come back to.
Yeah, widely accepted and easily found where you can, work on something like
I said,
that.
I gave up painting for 20 years. I walked back in and the smell alone, I was like, I'm back. I'm back.
You guys are lucky you're right in the middle of Citrus, right in the middle of Cohasset in Marshfield. So did you take classes from Kelly in Marshfield, or is she teaching both? Like a lot of the teachers seem like they teach in both of the facilities.
I think she's just in Marshfield.
Just in Marshfield?
I think so. That's where I took the classes with her, too.
Yes.
One of you guys is going for a residency at South Shore, or is it applying for a gallery artist?
So I applied in October and was accepted as a gallery artist. I'm actually showing a little bit of work in their lobby this month as well. And I think the next application round is in April.
It's next week, I'll be bringing stuff.
I know, it's hard to believe it's already April. I know. Where did March go? I know.
Right.
Their facility is fantastic.
Wonderful.
Right, yes. And they've had so many other, I've been able to show paintings in there, even not as a gallery artist, but just as some of they have juried shows, and then they have just some open things as well.
Yeah, and the big festival coming up. Both of the
yes, there's a lot. We keep sending each other all the dates and deadlines for
I'm going to make a calendar for next year.
Right. We're working
It's a lot to keep. Well, that's the thing. The one that we put together, we try to collaborate with all the different art groups in the area and have them send us And like, you having a show, send me the thing so I can get it in an email, send me pictures, images, time, dates, anything you can. We'll put it on our calendar so that we can build a kind of central hub for all the different areas.
That's really
in
smart.
the South Shore, because it's tough. There's so many, and sometimes they overlap each other.
Right.
They all overlap each other.
There's barely any breathing room between one type and the next.
Yeah, and everyone kind of crosses, right? Like everyone, it's not like you don't want to, all right, I'm only going to be a part of this art association. You want to be a part of that whole like community on the South Shore.
Absolutely.
Totally.
I haven't made it to the James Library show yet.
Yes,
It looks amazing.
It does look
That facility is really cool, like for showing artwork.
Come a long
It looks
way.
beautiful.
Yeah.
We were just over there.
you guys did a great job. Like, I know you guys
Yeah,
are
we're a
involved
sponsor.
and-
I mean, I'm trying to make a point to like go to all of the. I like art.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm fortunate that we're here and we're involved in like that scene, but like. It's a nice excuse for me to leave for a half a day and go over to and see the stuff and just like grab Elizabeth and or Claude and we'll just take some pictures of the stuff that's in there and then we can kind of help give back to the artists that have stuff framed by us. It's like a nice way to like show where their stuff is. It's also really nice to see the stuff on a wall in like a gallery setting also.
Yeah, and
trying to encourage people to send us pictures of like stuff hanging in their homes after it's finished too, because it's we see the product, but it like when you add it to like a wall in somebody's house or in like the James is just like a cool backdrop. I feel like with like books and stuff like that upstairs and that older space downstairs, but it's cool to see this stuff alongside other artwork as well.
Right.
Which makes it like sometimes challenging to hang like a show like that where there's like a wide variety of stuff. I know Bill and the woman that helped them, they did a great job lining that stuff up. I mean, I think it pairs well together. It's still complicated, but you don't have like this random
like perfect still life or something. Like
you have to like, all right, where the heck are we going to put this?
What does this connect to?
Yeah, we tend to run into that problem with the Hanover Days show, but where it's just a mix of everybody from the South Shore here.
Right.
So
in all different frames too.
Exactly.
Like,
It's not all just the same
We
style.
try to be cohesive with our frames. Yeah.
No, I think
but it definitely works. And that's the thing with this kind of framing for an abstract. You don't restrict any of the painting. There's nothing covered.
Right.
It's open and flowing. And with abstract, it's supposed to have that kind of open field. If you have it feel constricted and limited by the edge of a frame or behind glass or anything like that. I mean, I know you have a few pieces that are behind glass, but they have that just natural, neutral, white, black, nothing that's either complementing and enhancing a color that's in there, but nothing feels overly restricted in any of the pieces that I've seen that you've got hanging. So, and that's a tough thing with abstract. You never know. Sometimes people don't know which way to orient the picture, because one person sees something in one direction, another person sees it in another.
Yeah, my husband has definitely hung things the wrong way in our my painting.
Well, I tend not to sign my pieces. I never know what someone's going to like.
How can you not see it?
Orientation. So I signed everything on the back and then let them pick which way they want.
Oh, okay. See, no, I'm very specific. I know exactly how.
I'm like, I'm signing this.
What's the process when you're working on some of the stuff? When you're
Staring at a blank canvas, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we both start in a similar way where with one color paint or mark making tool, charcoal, something, just sort of do some gestural or some intuitive drawing. And then I tend to like to mix some water in there, some crayons in there, just to sort of break up the space and get the canvas activated, as they say. And oftentimes it's really a conversation back and forth, each layer. Like you get some marks down, you look at it in terms of form and color, composition. But the beginning part is really very intuitive. It's really just
So when you finish a piece, is that you're like, oh, this is exactly what I had in mind.
No.
Yeah, no. So it's.
I think if you start a painting thinking of what you have in mind, it comes out that way. It looks kind of forced.
Right.
Versus if you really just respond to each layer.
Constraining to an idea versus, like you said.
It comes out in the painting feels much more alive and much better.
Yeah.
Feel the same?
I don't think I'm as free as Kelly is. Like, I feel like I have like my kind of language of shapes that I kind of repeat and love. And like, I feel like also sometimes if I get stuck, I'll just like look at a bunch of other work, or, Kelly does like her daily paintings and does also like the grid things with like kind of warm-up exercises. I've kind of done something similar, but on like these little wood panels, these 8x8 wood panels. And I feel like I have like stacks of them now. So sometimes I'll even pull them out like as like a catalog of things like, so sometimes I'll start from something like what works in this, like what's not working. I like those marks. I like those shapes. So sometimes I do have a little bit more of a reference and don't just go for it.
I do the same thing with my stacks of daily paintings. Like if I get stuck on a painting, I'm like, okay, I'll just pull a stack out. Like, what do I like about this?
Exactly.
Oh, this scraper tool. Or, what do I like about this? Oh, I did kind of a whitewash over some of it. Or like, you kind of, there is something freeing about working on a smaller piece or a paper piece. And that sounds ridiculous. That's freer than our big abstract paintings. But there is something more freeing about working smaller, working on paper that like if you screw up, who cares?
And then the technology is cool too, because you can look at a piece and like there's those art stage rooms that you can like, but sometimes if you like blow it up big, you're like, oh, that actually would work.
That would work
really big. Or sometimes if it's like, you don't know what
if you do it in a small scale first and then work with it to go bigger.
Right. You don't always know.
You may add more or change some things up.
I mean, I don't usually like...
That usually doesn't work for me. Like, if I like it small, or composition. If I try to do it big, again, sometimes I feel like it feels forced. It's good for reference.
Sure.
Like, just in the back of your head, like, oh, this like ratio of this is good. But if you try to like copy a small one and make it big, I rarely have success with that.
Yeah. For me, it definitely changes a lot. But I feel like sometimes if I'm like... just stuck or something, that's like, it's helpful.
I follow several groups online for doing abstract artwork, and they use those programs all the time to say like, boom, this is what it would look like.
Right. I mean,
above a sofa or at the base of a stairwell. Or, gallery space, that kind of thing.
I think that helps, especially if you're working alone in your studio, to like check yourself a little. Like, how close am I to done on this piece?
When you sit down to work, I mean, do you have the colors already kind of mapped out, or is that too same thing? You just...
Some days there's a seed of a plan for me. Like...
I kind of feel like I have my go-to colors, but then I like mix them up and...
Well, I feel like there's some, like, I mean, there's like looking through everything in there. It's like, it's not like you have a palette that's totally consistent. Right?
I tend to work with a pretty limited palette most of the time on one painting. One painting may have max like 5 colors, but then mixed infinite colors from that.
Right.
I don't tend to just put every color on the palette.
It really is amazing how much color you can get from like a limited palette too. And I feel like, especially with abstract too, like it just helps to like create more harmony in the whole piece if you have like a little bit of that cad red mixed with the blue or something like that. So it's not just a kind of straight mix out of the two kind of colors.
Now do you find you have to mix more than you feel you're going to need for that particular painting, so that if you have to go back over and layer over everything, you can do it? Or you just go, do you go straight from tube, or do you do...
I mix everything on the fly. I use what I have, then I mix some more. I feel like color matching is one of my superpowers. So if I need to rematch it, it's fine. If you're only working with a limited palette, you can kind of remember, even if you don't write it down. I can be like, oh, that must have been cad red and Payne's gray and cad yellow, and like maybe I put black in there or whatever, and I can recreate if needed. But I think especially in some of the pieces that are more monochromatic, having the tones and textures, even the slight differences in colors and the blending is what makes it more interesting when you look up close versus if I had one pot of the same mixed color, I think it would look really flat.
Yeah, no, I don't do the pots. I know there's plenty of people that do, but again, I can color mix pretty good. I used to love when that was one of the things I liked about teaching, like if they were doing like a certain project and wanted like, if they were working from another artwork or something like that, I can find that color.
It's really
it is fun. It's like a little bit of a challenge.
Oh, sure.
Even if you have a very limited, I'm like, I can still get there somehow. Just a little bit of black and white.
And then how about like when people are interpreting your pieces, do you want them to see something specific, or do you just want them to find something in the piece that, like this is what it is, or is it kind of left for interpretation? And
to me, my biggest compliment I think I received on one of my paintings was someone who like told me, I don't understand abstract art, but I can't stop looking at this painting and I really love it. And I was like, wonderful.
Right.
Yeah,
like, it's more about a feeling and an appreciation. And if you don't like it, that's also fine. I think people would respond to different paintings more, again, on an intuitive level versus saying, I see a bunny rabbit in there. Or I see a martini glass. What about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like we've actually had this conversation about how like if you're doing something super abstract and very loose and then you put like one horizon line and people are like, oh,
it's a landscape.
It's just like, you just, that one little horizon line, just you can do whatever you want and nobody will question what are you doing? What are you thinking about? What is going on? But for me, it's just like, I think it's almost like, think of it as like play and like just like have fun with like shape and color and see what happens. And definitely not thinking of this is like, I mean, I do have some landscapes over there.
Yeah.
Not dogging the landscapes, but
No, but your landscapes are very much abstract.
right. And they're still about color and texture and shape. Like that's more important to me than like making it look.
Yeah, and people see what they want to see in the landscape. There are things that they like in landscapes they see in the painting. That's what they'll pull out of it versus it being like, that's definitely a hydrangea bush. Or like, that's, you know.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, people get a visceral reaction and that's a good thing. And some people can't get there. Yeah. But that's okay too.
That's okay.
Yeah, so you're not spending a lot of time trying to explain what the pieces are to...
No.
It's almost like cooking. Like once you have the ingredients and know what the ingredients will do, then you kind of are free to like just play. Yeah. And if, you know, like I know when like a piece is done.
Yeah, that one that you don't go that one extra step too far and go,
oh, like when you look at all the spots and you're like, okay, it's
Sometimes
it's
I carry the painting around my house sometimes and like put it up in the kitchen like as I'm cooking dinner and I'm like, I do like you. Or like, you're not quite there yet. Or maybe more paint. Or like always looking at it in the morning with fresh eyes will determine yes, you are complete. Or like, actually, no, you need one more thing.
That was the hardest thing for me was to learn not to futz with things.
Right.
Like, let it be. Let it dry. Let us see how it's going to be when it's fully done. And don't try to correct it right now.
Yeah, especially if there's parts that you really do like.
Exactly. Too. It's always the part that ends up getting ruined. It's the part you love, too. It's like, I can't get that back now.
Right. But I must say, too, like looking at these, especially like from seeing all yours online, but looking at them up close, it's like such a different experience.
Oh, it's always different than a 2D image on the screen.
It really is.
So. Color, texture. We always said this thing, it's one of the things that's difficult about a lot of the online submissions.
Right.
It's like, how can you get the feeling and the impression of the scope of a piece unless you see it in person?
Right.
The picture they may send you may only be a 6x6, but on a screen it can look, huge. And in person it feels much more, you pick up the delicate textures and the layering and the simple brush strokes that you don't pick up if the highlight's not hitting it the right way versus something that's a photograph that's, huge, but on a screen now it's small. It's like, again, you lose that scale.
The scale. And even the colors, like they don't translate.
Color never translates. Everybody's monitor's tinted something different. You got the darkness up, you got darkness down, brightness up.
Right, yeah.
I think one of the things that's interesting about this style of painting that Kelly and I share is just the richness of the layers and the texture and the history that's there as we build a painting. There's so much, you can look at it from across the room and be like, oh, I like that. And then when you get close, you're going to discover something new every time you look at it.
Is it like the part of that community of like, is this piece finished, or if you're working on something, or you're kind of on your own for that stuff and just come together for...
I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to ask Kelly that. If I needed advice, I would text her.
I feel like that happens in the classes, but like outside of the classes, probably not as much. I feel like I ask her for more technical,
we call each other and be like, what website software do you think you're going to use, or pricing, things like that.
Like that kind of stuff.
Having somebody like that to bounce things off of, that's like, great. It makes it so much easier when somebody else is already in the same boat as you for that kind of thing.
My website is actually going live today.
Nice.
Which would be?
It's KellyRussoArt.com.
There we go.
And Susan Davis at SHD Marketing, they helped me. Stephanie McDonald, who works for her, helped me put it together. I tried to do it myself. I know Kelly did hers, and all the power to you. But I just couldn't. I just was spending too much time trying to teach myself how to do it. And
it's a lot. And
I know what.
Trust me, we know.
That's one of the things that I know what I wanted it to look like. I just couldn't get.
I took a class at the Collective Co. in North Scituate with Kate Bowler, who does a lot of social media and like she wrote a cookbook, that kind of thing. But it was about like your own branding, which I would never approach my art as a design project. But having the history that I have working in the design industry, I was like, oh, I need to make mood boards for how I want my website to feel. Oh, I need to pick this font and this. And like, so I treated it a little bit like a design project a year ago. From a technical standpoint, I don't know that it really works properly, but you can see my work there.
I think your website is great. I think both your Instagrams that you guys use,
We're trying.
No, but I think, it has a great feel to it. Instagram's a great outlet for all artists to show, especially if you have like a painting you're cranking out at least one every day, just to have like that collection of work for somebody to see. Do you feel like you sell a lot because of Instagram and the website, or do you?
I've been surprised.
There's plenty of things that are marked sold on there.
I've been surprised that it's worked, I guess. I feel like it's a process. as an artist, I'd rather be painting all day, but it is important to carve out a certain amount of time to sort of make sure that if someone wanted to buy something, it's available and I know how to get it to them. And someone wanted to buy a large painting recently and I was like, how do I even ship it?
How do you ship it?
We're learning as we go, I would say. But in addition to reaching customers that maybe we wouldn't be able to reach, it's also been great to connect with other artists whose work you admire. And like, I am like,
there's been a couple of people that I have no idea who they are, different artists on Instagram that are going to come to the show.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yes, there's another abstract artist on their social. I was like, I can't wait for your show. I can't wait to meet you.
We've talked so often, but I don't know who you are yet. Yeah, exactly.
No, so I mean, I think social media can get a bad rap, but I also think there's a lot of good in terms of connecting artists and connecting communities and connecting buyers.
That's the benefit of it, because there are people that can't get themselves away to get to the galleries or to a place that you're selling, or they may be on the West Coast and they want to, see your stuff. Being able to have a place where they can go and view it is great, and a place that you can get it onto easily enough that you don't have to fight tooth and nail until you can get a whole thing up built where you can, like you said, just go in and easily drop your new pieces into and have them on display.
Yeah.
The social media was the best way for that. And that's actually been the best thing for a lot of new artists I've seen.
Yeah. I think it opens your audience, right?
Absolutely.
And then it also, fortunate enough to know a few artists, but it also like opens the door too. Like, at least you have something on there. There's a reference of what your work looks like. You can put down like what the sizes are, a price point, so people understand if they're, I mean, I don't know how many questions you have to field or from those things, but like, I think having all that stuff out there is like, it eliminates some of the tire kickers, right? Like it's, oh yeah, that's great. And then like some people don't understand the value in some of that stuff. And not that there's anything wrong with that. People spend what they want, but it eliminates some of the, I can afford that painting, or at least have a point of reference of like, maybe I'll be able to save up and get one of those pieces, because spending money on artwork, I think, is also important. Like, I think about all this stuff constantly, but like, if it doesn't cost you something, you're not getting that value, right?
Like, think of it as an investment in something that you love.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you could just have every painting, like what would it, what would the, treating it with care or like presenting it in the right place. I mean, they're one of a kind. So obviously needs to be treated the same way. I don't know. I think about these things, and then the same thing is like you have all the artwork of your children, right? Like a personal value to you. I mean, I feel like you need to spend some money on the artwork for it to have a value.
Yeah.
I don't know. These are weird.
I think it was something. It was something that we talked about, and that I was thinking a lot about in terms of this show, because obviously we have some bigger pieces, both of us, that are more of an investment, but then also having some paper pieces that are framed that are more affordable, or some smaller canvas pieces that if you wanted something, for a cute little shelf, you want a little taste of the artwork, but not a huge one, that we tried to make sure that we have some of that available as well. I think it's fun to do a
large
small
is
painting.
in right now, though, too. I tell you, it's as you can tell by our space for storing all our artwork when people bring it in, there's little space left for anything that's not 18 by 24 or larger. People are looking for larger statement pieces right now, so that's the hot ticket item that we've seen.
I would say we have a few very big ones.
Oh yeah, we've got some decent sized pieces there. Yeah,
it's great. But smaller work's important too, because like how do you
start?
Well, I mean, I always think of things like, because I'm thinking about frames too, and like the aspect of like a gift or something like that. I feel like somebody is like, I really like Kelly's work. I think that Scott would love it too. Like, buy him a painting that's like 40 by 40, and be like, here you go. Like,
I thought you might like this.
On the back of my door.
But having like a smaller piece, it helps them introduce the artist, or like you're not like some of the bigger pieces. You have to have a room set up around them.
Right.
Whereas like some medium-sized pieces and smaller pieces, it's like you can love the piece and you're going to find it.
Your home.
Yeah, we have people say that all the time. It's like, how big should I go with this? I'm giving it as a gift. I'm like, I wouldn't go any bigger than 16 by 20.
Right. As a gift,
anything larger than that, you kind of have to have a designated space for it, to have it fit properly without it being like wedged between two windows with an inch of space on either side. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't fit the space.
I was thinking about all these like white kitchens around here too. And I'm like, some of these bright, people probably wouldn't think of that, but I'm like, that needs to be one of our marketing tools.
We have a lot of people that actually frame stuff and they go, I want it for my kitchen. And the smaller pieces are great for that. And it's smaller multi-pieces.
Yeah. Okay.
3 12 by 12s,
Okay.
like over the breakfast nook or things like that people want to have they want to keep it minimal, but they want to have just a splash of color.
Little splash of color.
The kitchen is an underrated place to put art.
Right.
Because
everyone always worried about it getting wrecked from,
but
cooking.
you spend
and
so
things.
much time in your kitchen. And so if you're
when I go home, I
chopping
spend
vegetables
several hours
for
in there.
dinner, you might as well be looking at a small piece of art.
And you're thinking about those staged pictures with like the perfect fruit, like all this big, the fruit and just to add some color to it. But like, why not put some art and stuff?
Something other than live, laugh, love written on your wall, or something.
Yes. Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but.
Right.
Yeah, that or poorly done mass-produced paintings of some sort of fruit or vegetable. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I think that speaking of cooking and like the ingredients aspect of the paintings, I mean, I think that the motion and like that sort of thing would translate well into someone's kitchen. So
yeah,
totally.
Yeah, so let me think of some other questions. You want to?
I thought when you said you had a lot of questions, there'd be like a list. I like that it's just off the top of your head.
Yeah, no, I can't.
And it's too structured. You have to do it off the cuff there.
Right.
When you were also talking about like the investment aspect, when you price the work, do you like fall in love with some pieces and then you don't want is that a part of the decision making process?
100%.
Yeah. I saw an artist who does a lot of classes and stuff online say your price should be something that if you sell it, you're not sad about it.
Right.
And I thought that stayed with me. But at the same time, I sold my favorite painting I've done so far recently. And I hesitated. And then I was like, you know what? The creativity is infinite. Like, I'm going to paint more.
Okay.
So this should not be staying in my house.
Yeah.
It should be enjoyed. It's in a beautiful home that was just freshly renovated. And I'm like, I love this painting, but go forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live your best life painting,
Yeah.
Just letting it go.
So yeah, there is an attachment to some more than others, and the price might reflect that. But at the same time, it's nice to see them.
Oh, there's pieces I've held on to for a couple of years, and I'm like, all right, I'm not as in love with this piece as I was when I first made it, because maybe it was the first one that came out the way I originally intended in my mind, that I saw like the colors all work perfectly.
Right.
I can't get rid of this. And then it's like, well, it's all right, and I could use a little extra money right now. I mean, there's a lot of factors, and again, mood too. Maybe the mood I was in is a mood I don't want to be in anymore when I see it. So but somebody else may really enjoy or pull something different out of it. So.
I spent years with keeping my artwork in a big portfolio, like under a bed or in my attic. And so therefore, like putting it in the world feels very freeing and kind of crazy to me at this point, but also like maybe that's exactly how it's supposed to go. Not stay living under your bed or in an attic portfolio.
I just feel like sometimes the harder pieces to get rid of are the ones that like maybe you had like a breakthrough moment too. And you're like, I need that around a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, you have the smaller pieces to give you inspiration and like as references, you said too. So yeah, I think that's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other pieces of mine that I've like, I'd want an absurd amount of money for some of the things because I'm not producing anything. But the other pieces that you sell, I've noticed like a lot on your site, you have plenty of sold or not available anymore. Like, do you feel like you have a connection to the people that bought them, or are you?
In some cases, yes. And in other cases, it's actually exhilarating when I like mail, especially my daily paintings, which are pretty affordable and easy to package and mail. When I mail them off to some state with a human that I don't know, I think like, wow, you're living in a house in Michigan. Who knew a stranger bought that? So there's an attachment, but also, again, like it feels good to know that they're living with a stranger somewhere in a nice home.
Do you like get involved in the conversations with those people that are buying them too?
Sometimes they'll send me a photo of like where it ends up, which I like. And again, this isn't happening like 100 times a day. So it's easy enough to respond and have a conversation. But
no, and I think about like people buying art and like, because there's such a, I feel like sometimes people are intimidated by it, right? Like they don't know about buying art or like, just seeing what people frame and how they frame things. Sometimes there's, I don't want to say like lack of creativity, but more like lack of confidence in like knowing what you like and why you like it. And I think that sometimes when people buy art, I think it's nice to know who the person you're buying the artwork from is, or at least like have a thing in your head about like, this is Kelly, she's going to be like a famous abstract painter, or like you're finding their stuff before like the masses find it. Like I feel like sometimes that's like a nice selling point because the people are buying more than the painting. They're buying like something.
Yeah, the story.
Created.
It's personal. Yeah.
It is very personal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you could sit and you could go on any website you want to, art.com, and buy some $5 print and put something up because you like the color palette.
Yeah.
But if you have a connection to the artist and you know the story behind it, how long it took him to work on it, if you saw a progression of like, this is how it started, and then you watched the artist work on it for a couple of weeks and they put up snippets of it's almost ready, and then here it is, and then you can say like, here, watch this. She started this in January and it went all the way to, this. You can, sometimes I find more interesting than, like I said, the $5 print from art.com.
Yeah.
Right. And then those things get so flattened out too. Like, again, like seeing the stuff in person, there's so much more depth to everything. And
I mean, at the same time, the person who bought my favorite painting was like, I like it in the photo, but I haven't seen it in real life because it was sort of matchup. And I said, take it for the weekend. Hang it up. Look at it.
Live with
Spend
it.
some time with it. If you're going to invest in it, I want you to like it and not from a 1-inch square on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah, we know several artists that will actually go to people's homes and like, here, put it up. Let's see how it looks.
That's what I did.
If it doesn't look right, then why would you buy it? Why would I want somebody to, hate it every single time
you
they
want
walk
someone
by
to
and
feel
look
good
at
about
it?
your purchase.
Yeah, I mean, because from the frame standpoint,
Yeah.
right? Like you almost have a billboard in. I
know Mike will do that. Mike Sleeper goes and brings things to people's homes to, if he goes, if you're going to invest in a piece of my artwork and you want to see it in the space, I am more than happy to bring it to you, and I'll show you 1 or 2 different variations of something I have that will, maybe you thought it might look great for that color palette you have in the room and it didn't end up working, but there's never any problem with that. That's just how he works. That's part of his...
I think it's very easy to do when someone's local.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the best form of advertising, right? Like, as a happy customer that's proudly displaying your piece in their house.
Yeah.
And everyone who comes over, it's in like a great spot.
Exactly. They're
like,
going to be apt to talk more about
what
it.
What is this? And, oh, that's Kelly's. And, who is Kelly? And having that, and then they go onto your Instagram page or your website and they find more out about, and maybe they get that connection too. And then it all starts from, I saw your piece at, so-and-so's house or in one of these shows at one of the, one of these local art associations. I mean, I feel like I've bought in a number of pieces from people who, one, I see like the stuff here, but also I'll see it in shows and people that don't actually even come in here. There's like 1 or 2. Yeah. I'll see them in a couple shows or I'll see it and be like, all right, well, at least I have that person in my mind because like I like their work and then try to get to those shows early to, to be the first in line to be able to purchase some of this stuff.
I think that's happened to both of us recently too, or you saw something in a show that you wanted and didn't get it. I know it happened to me recently where I was like, I want that. And then I thought about it for a day and then it was sold. And I was like, Yeah. But next time I'll be quicker.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. That's the thing with original paintings, once it's gone, it's gone. So don't sit on it and wait. If you like it, there's a reason you like it, grab it.
That's a thing. I'm fortunate enough I get to hang a bunch of shows too. So
you get the sneak.
I almost feel like I have like that preview.
The preview before the preview.
We had that happen during our Christmas show. We had several people want this one piece and somebody had actually bought it like the first day it went up and it had a tag on it. And they're like, we want it. It's like, well, it's gone. She's only got one piece in the show. I can't, And we had to, once that one sold, we were like, your piece already sold. Do you have something else you want to bring in to put up in the show? Put something else. That one sold. It was like, okay, all right. So people are like, she's like, I didn't think anybody would like this stuff. I'm like, again, it's all depends on what people are coming in to look. That was a Motley Crue show, a little bit of everything, all in the smaller sizes. But that's when people were, especially during the holidays, and more.
That was a great show. That was a great show. There was something for everyone in that show. I like that very much.
Yeah.
Another feather in Dina's cap.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to find original art for a decent price in an area where you can get it.
And lovely framed already, too.
Exactly. So that
ready
was
to
great.
gift.
Right, exactly.
Well, we've talked about you guys putting stuff on other people's walls. What's on your guys' walls? That's a subject we like to touch on with everybody. What's a favorite piece one of each of you guys have on your wall?
This is like where you might have to edit. I'll have to find the artist's name. But I did buy a piece from last year's the South Shore Art Center, like the gala night and their big show. Yeah, and it's in my living room and I love it.
Nice. Is that the preview before their festival? Or?
It was at the festival. Yeah, it was the...
We went to the festival party.
The party.
The one in June.
Yeah, that was like one of my first like kind of investment pieces, I guess. But I love it. And
who's the artist?
That's what I gotta look at her. That's the edit.
You said it was like a turquoise color. What is it? Like?
It's very abstract. It's nice, oil. Okay. It's 36 by 36 probably.
Also decent size.
Yeah, it's
a big size too.
But it just caught my eye, and then I visited it a few more times. And
Yeah, you liked it that first night.
I'm trying to remember who some of the pieces. It wouldn't have been like Paige Railsback.
No,
it's not Paige. I know Paige.
I love her work.
36 by 36 in like those turquoise colors.
I feel like, I feel like she doesn't have an Instagram, so I don't know her.
I just saw her work somewhere recently, and I was like, oh, that's the artist that Kelly bought the nice painting. But I can't remember it either.
But I had met her at the social art. I think we took
You
a
did?
class together too, like years ago. Too.
Oh, no.
That's nice.
Yeah, that festival was good. That was the guy, was it? I'm trying to remember his real name. Pro Black.
Oh, yeah, Rob.
Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Gibbs.
Rob Gibbs.
Yeah.
That was
a
an
fun
interesting
night.
show. I guess I wasn't paying close attention. I didn't see you guys. I bought Nancy Collella's piece that night. It was interesting to hear him talking.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable party.
Right. It was great.
On my wall, which is interesting, I inherited a piece from my mom. That's a Roz Farbush floral painting that has taken on more like sentimental value since then. I love the work. It was a painting my mom bought, and then both Kelly McDonald and Paula Villanova and a lot of their contemporaries were students of Roz. So there's like a full circle connection of like
Did you know Roz at all?
I think I met her years ago through another family friend, but I didn't know her well or personally.
Did your mother paint with Roz or just
my mom mom did not paint. My mom was creative in many other ways, but she did not paint. She just loved the painting and had a friend who was another student of hers. So it's a great piece that I sort of accidentally have, but has some full circle connection for me.
Those are great, those people that something you grew up with seeing all the time?
No,
or
she bought it when she didn't live with us, but then she lived with us and it's mine now.
Yeah, there you go. So one of my favorite pieces in my house is done by Roz. Roz is
amazing.
Yeah, she was unbelievable. She was a very interesting person too. Like that's like another person that I'm like fortunate enough to know. She used to come by friends like all frosted silver 22 profile.
Yes, that's exactly what it's framed in.
Like that was like her. That was like she would come in and like she'd call me and order them, and like she'd order like 10 at a time. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, what is she doing? Putting these together? Then they'd be recycled and they'd be paint all over the sides of some of them. But yeah, she was like super interesting.
That's cool.
The piece in Paige I know was a student art. There's so many people took classes from her and the trips to somewhere in Mexico. Yeah. But I have a piece of hers. It was like the back of a police officer that I bought. And when I bought that, at the point where I bought it, it was definitely like a stretch for me to pay for it. And I see so many of her pieces. We still see people come in and bring them in.
I actually have a piece that my dad painted, now that I'm thinking of it too. But he used to paint, like he used to go down the basement and watch Bob Ross and paint. So I had some like in my room as like a kid. And then, I have a piece that's like framed. And then another piece that I love is actually when I went to Cuba, there was like an outsider art fair. So it was like just people that just paint. They're not like going to school or anything.
Yeah.
So I have like this, it's super bright colored. It's like a chicken and an egg. And I love that painting too. So.
We always say it's like, artwork can invoke of either place you were, a memory.
Totally. Yeah, we always try to collect something from travels and things like that. Yeah. Not necessarily a painting, but like an art piece, like a wood carving or things like that.
That's one of the great things about working here. We get to see so many interesting pieces come in from different, in different materials, from painting on bed sheets and pillowcases to, full-on hand-carved dried leather that, came from their... farms, like you never know what you're going to have walk through. Right. And every time we think we've seen it all, we get somebody throws a curveball at us.
I actually have some shoes I need to get framed.
Yeah, we've got a couple of them.
That's great.
From the days of
they're not.
Designed. Yeah.
No, my best friend from childhood worked for the UN for years and brought me a pair of like children's shoes. I believe they are from. She's going to be mad at me now. I think they're from Libya, but they're children's shoes. Like they're beautiful. They're absolutely like handcrafted, beautiful, tiny.
Oh, very cool.
Shoes. And I've been meaning to bring them in to be framed. So I'll do that.
Perfect.
We've definitely framed shoes.
Oh, I know. There's a whole catalog in there of old images. We can show you some different variations of ones we framed up. So
I need to get them up.
We can even do them in such a fashion if you wanted to take them out and put them on.
No. They wouldn't fit.
Little locking.
Just the toe. Just one little toe.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited you guys came by. I think that this was awesome. I still have like plenty of questions and would love to get feedback of like the pieces you have behind you. Anything that you could tell us about, or I don't want to put you on the spot.
I can tell you about my painting here that's behind us.
This one is actually, I think, I was like leaning towards like a few of which ones I like the best. And this one's kind of the one I'm leaning at the moment.
So I did this painting actually in a workshop that we did together. Okay. I don't know if you were there that day, but Kelly told us we could only paint with one color. And I resisted. I said no. No, I was like, I don't want to do that. And I rebelled against it and I didn't want to do it. And I was a little bit grumpy about it because I do rely on color so much in my process. And I love color and I love the mixing and that part of it. And I didn't want to just mix ultramarine blue with black and white. That sounded so terrible.
It's one color category, right? It's all in the blue tones.
Sure, but then I did the painting and then I was like, okay, I like the painting. Fine, you were right. I struggled in the beginning. I didn't want to do it. And then I ended up really enjoying it and appreciating just the value and texture and things that maybe get lost when you put more focus on color.
Right. And I feel like you learned something from this painting because like some of the style with the big black like repeats in that huge piece that you have downstairs.
That's the other one I like. It's on the wall downstairs.
Yeah. But like you probably learned
those pieces
a lot
are
from
harder
that,
for me than that black and white one downstairs.
Yeah.
I think I snuck a little color in at the end because I
there's definitely some like pink shimmer and some green shimmer
little
underneath.
Subtle
but again, like
that's in there,
any fundamentals of painting, like it's good to do a palette cleanse once in a while. It's good to take away all the things that you rely on and just go back to basics and do a more monochromatic or black and white piece. And they often surprise me that I do like them in the end, even though it feel resistance in the beginning. So
I like the piece downstairs a lot too. You know, what was it you were saying you saw in that one, Scott?
So for me, that one that has the black in it, the larger piece that's downstairs, to me it looks like someone standing in something like a kitchen looking into like a fully opened room, from a open concept kitchen into a living room. The pink that you were saying actually takes on like this phantom outline of a mantle and fireplace to me. Like you're standing in a kitchen, all the lights turned out, everything's black. That room is lit up. So it's all shadow in one room, and then you're going into a room full of light and a lot of color and everything.
I can't wait to go look at it again.
I stare at it every day because I sit right across from it at my desk, so I see it. It's like it's all I think of when I look at it. It's just like,
well, that just goes to show like how much depth that she can create with just like those simple colors and
just
simple like layers. There's so much depth, right? That you can see a whole entire room.
Yeah, it's just funny how something like that will pop into your mind, and that's all you can see. That's just that's what I see
when I was looking at that. Like me and Scott were, we were fortunate enough to hang around it in a frame store with Art on a regular basis, so we could discuss these things. The first thing I thought of was like the Klein paintings, and like one of the Klein paintings at the MFA where he's got like those like really heavy black brush.
But his are just like on a raw canvas, and it's all about the black.
But
hers have like so much more depth.
Yeah, more color. Yeah, ours is way better. But that was,
Thanks, guys.
That was what I, saw in it. And then it's interesting to hear, like, to have something in your head, and then you're discussing it with a colleague, or, somebody whose opinion you respect a lot, and to hear how they interpreted, the same type of thing.
That's what makes it fun, is you can see different things or feel different
Well, that's what I love about it. There's just so many different things you can, like you said, you can see things so many different ways, which is great,
I want to hear about this one too.
Yeah.
So I used to like not title anything. Like, I don't know, maybe that was like a mass art thing, but nobody titled anything. Yeah. Everything was untitled.
That's sometimes the hardest part of the piece.
Is this untitled?
This is actually titled Pressure Drop, which is like a Jimmy Cliff song.
Okay.
So, but sometimes I'm not thinking about that beforehand. Like I kind of...
You seem to have a lot of references to music.
A little bit,
Is that important to you when you're during the process, though?
I used to listen to so much music when I painted, where I feel like now I'm like, I'll either like listen to like a podcast or even like a book or something. Because it's like, quiet and the time and things like that. But I've had a lot of fun with the titles lately. I feel like I kind of enjoy making the titles. And usually it is like afterwards, like I'll look at the piece. Because again, with our kind of style and way we approach it, I don't think there's like a preconceived like vision of what's going to happen.
I title mine after too.
Yeah.
When you come up with that title, do you feel like you're trying to guide the viewer into like
it just
seeing what
it
you're
reminded
seeing,
me of that. I don't know. It just reminded me of that, like even like literally kind of like the droplets and things like that. And then just kind of reminded me of that kind of feeling and that kind of like type of music flow too. I think we definitely had to do, now that I'm remembering, well, maybe one of my first abstract paintings like in my basement was like
doing it to like a Bob Marley song back in high school or something that.
I feel like I can see like a head or, but I also feel like feels like, with some of the shapes, almost like a cityscape or like,
or some like kind of music vibrations, things like that. I have definitely referenced like a landscape a lot and even like just like drawing from life or like drawing and traveling.
I was going to say, I get a very
like
abstract still life kind of feel from a lot of your pieces. Almost like, a bunch of items, like a bunch of different bottles or vases or like, that's just the impressions I get from it when I look at them. This one that looked to me like it was just like, I don't know, it was almost looked like a shopping cart of overflowing boxes and everything, like just a fully packed cart, as you leave the supermarket kind of thing. It's just, again, that's where my mind went when I saw it. It has a lot of reds
you were
in
hungry
it.
that day.
There's a lot of reds in it. There's a lot of reds on a lot of labels.
You had a shopping list of
exactly. Red and yellow, exactly.
That's like design 101.
Exactly, right? Yellow. That's what McDonald's does so well.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, again, I think that hearing those stories behind them and like knowing what the artist thinks or like what people think when they view things is like just such an interesting thing.
Well, I think we have our cover photo for the podcast episode. We'll use those two pieces and that way people have a reference for if they see this first, that'll be the first thing they're introduced to, and then they can hopefully view everything else in the gallery.
Cool.
Yeah, and I will certainly have tons of stuff up for people to get visuals. I know we're already
all the socials
pushing you guys on the social media. We'll be continuing to do that. But if people want to see your stuff,
KellyRussoArt.com
and
KellyBroderickArt.com.
Nice.
There we go.
Yes.
I tell you, there's something for keeping it simple. It really is. Because when somebody's looking for it, you throw in these random things and it's like...
Right.
You guys always want more followers on Instagram.
Sure.
And,
Can't hurt.
Jeez.
Yeah, we'll have to get all your links.
Look at it. It's like Kelly_Russo_art is my Instagram.
Yeah, and we'll have links for all that stuff. Like,
perfect.
When we put the podcast out. I'm sure that...
we'll link that to the main site, and the main site will have links to everything else for you. So
wonderful. Thank you.
And maybe Claude will follow up, try to get some pages for it, because we're trying to like have that.
Yeah, Claude makes fun reels.
We're trying to.
I can't do that.
We're trying to get like pages set up on the website too, to link to like artists that we have connected to, like almost like just like a pass through from our site to get to your site or your social media.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, like we were saying, trying to build that central hub of the social artists, just so that there's a listing of everybody for when people come to us all the time. They're like, "Do you know any portrait artists, or do you know any like?" Before was, let me go check the bulletin board. Let me see whose card's up here, because off the top of my head, maybe I don't remember.
Yeah, having a point of reference.
Having something we can show you.
There's so many artists that come in here too, and then like, I don't know. I mean, I've had this conversation with Caitlin, who was in the last podcast, who was a portrait photographer, and recommended her to my friend Mike, who was also an artist, but like because he needed a senior portrait done. And it's like we're almost like a go-between, because we have tons of people that come in that are looking for art. We also have tons of artists that come in, and it's almost like pairing them up and by giving artists an opportunity to like feature work, or having to be able to introduce them to people that are obviously interested in framing art, which probably means they're interested in art in general. It just seems like a natural fit.
That's great. Yeah, you guys have been so generous with your time, and
we enjoy it. That's half the battle.
Yeah,
if it wasn't something we were enjoying doing,
it's not complicated when you're actually interested in enjoy seeing and working with this stuff. So, well, I'm excited you guys stopped by, and I can't wait for Thursday night. See what kind of crowd comes in. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more.
Hoping everybody that took a card shows up.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody for listening with us today, and we'll see you next time.
All right, see ya.